Hi, in this video I will talk about views in Android. So you can see that I have a basic project open over here. If you go to your resources folder, layout, then here you can see that we have one layout here already. We open it, and in Android we design the UIs using the XML files. So you can see that here this file has a .xml extension and we code the UI in XML. Now you can see here that Android Studio provides us two different options for designing our UIs. First is this design UI, that you have a palette available over here where you have certain views and elements, and you can basically select if you want button, you want text, or you want some common elements, and then you can just take it and drop it here. So you can use this UI interface to adjust your elements on the screen and design your UI. Thus, the second option is the code. So if you go to the code tab, you can code the UI yourself. Now in the beginning, it may seem a bit tempting to design the UI using this, but if you want to design some complex UIs, then it becomes really difficult to fine-tune the UI. So if you want finer control over your UI, then I would suggest to use code from the very beginning so that you get used to it. So in this video, I will show you how to do it using the XML file. Now, before diving into designing the UI, I would like to explain two basic classes or groups in which Android UI elements are divided. And the first of that group is called View. So View are basically all the UI elements that you see on the screen. So for instance, buttons, text views, image views, and so on. And all of these elements have a common parent class called View. So all of these elements inherit from View. And the second one is called View Group. And View Groups are basically the containers that contain your views. Because let's say if you want to place a couple of buttons on the screen, the Android system should know how to arrange it. So you place those buttons within a certain view group, and that view group basically defines how your views will be arranged. And in this video, I will talk about a particular view group called LinearLayout. So let's get to that. Now, back in our code, let's just remove this because right now we don't really want anything in the linear layout. And we have constraint layout over here by default that Android Studio added. So if you select all of this and start typing linear layout, Android Studio should show you the suggestion, press enter, and then it will be replaced by the linear layout, and even the ending tag will be replaced by linear layout as well. Now there are a couple of tags over here that needs some explanation. The first three of these that you can see are basically importing the XML namespace. So there are certain tags that we use in Android, let's say for instance this Android and tools, and those tags belong to certain namespaces, and this is just importing those namespaces. And this code is usually generated by the Android Studio itself if you create an XML. So you don't really need to remember where those tags are stored. And so these are just importing those tags. And then you can see those tags are used down here already. Now, the second important thing, actually the most important thing in the layouts and the views is this Android layout width and layout height property, because these are the properties that you need to set on every view and view group. They are mandatory properties. There are basically three different values that you can set for layout width or height. And here you can see that they have been set to match parent. And match parent means that this particular layout will take as much width and height as its parent. But because this is the parent layout itself, it means that it will take the whole screen. So if you go to the design, here you can't really see it, but you see this blue border around it that basically indicates that it has taken the whole screen. But we can make it more clearer. Let's say add a background over here. So in Android, you add background by this Android background tag. And then let's add a color black so that we can see it. If you go to this design, now you can see that it has taken the whole screen. And that happened because its layout width and height has been defined as match parent. Now the second option is to define the width or the height as wrap content. And wrap content means that it will take, in this case, it will take the width, it will take as much width as it needs, not more, not less. So if we go check out the design again, you will see that it's not there. It has actually not taken any width at all. And that's because it doesn't have anything inside of it. Now, the third option is that you hardcode the value. So let's say I say 220 dp, and dp means device independent pixels. That's the unit that you use in Android, because usually it's discouraged to hardcode. You can write pixels here as well, but you will see the warning. Android Studio will give you a warning that avoid using pixels as units, use dp instead, because the Android devices comes in different form factors and different resolutions. So if you hardcode the pixels, it will not translate very well to an actual device. It's always recommended to use dp. So now if we go and check the design, you will see that it hasn't taken the whole width. It has taken just this 220 dp width. So that's how it works. Let's change this to match parent, because usually for the parent layout, this very first tag, the very first layout is usually called the root layout. This root layout is usually set to take up the whole screen. Let's remove this as well. So here I would like to add, let's start with an edit text. So if you start typing edit text, press enter. Now let's select the width of this edit text to be match parent, and I will set the height to be wrap content. And then in order to see it, let's set a text on it. So let's say we can select some dummy text, and then we close the tag. Now let's see how it looks. So here you can see that this edit text appears at the top, and this is also one of the property of Android layouts, that by default everything appears at the top left corner. In this case, we define this to be define the width of this view to be match parent. That's why it's taking the whole width, and we defined the height to be wrap content, so it's taking as much height as it needs. And let's say here we define the width to be wrap content as well, to see how it looks. And here you can see that it has only taken as much width as it needs, which is basically the space that this text needs. Now I will change it back to match parent. Now, what is linear layout? Basically, as the name suggests, linear layout arranges its children in a linear fashion, so either straight vertically or straight horizontally. And in order to show that, I will have to add a couple of more edit texts over here. So let's add 2 more down here. I just copy pasted them, and then you will observe that it's giving an error here, and it says that we have wrong orientation and we don't have any orientation specified. That's because there's another property of linear layout. Remember, just now I said that you can, with using the linear layout, you can arrange the elements in like straight vertical fashion or the horizontal fashion, and that is defined by the orientation tag. So let's define it to be vertical, so that all of these appear in a vertical fashion. And if you go check out the design, you can see that they appear one after the other. Now, if you want to show them horizontally, you can change this to horizontal and go check it out. But what is that? It's just one text view. It's just one edit text. You don't see the other two. And that's because this one is taking the whole width and the other ones have been pushed out of the screen. So in order to show all of them in this case, we can change these to wrap content so that all of them take as much space as they need. So there's space for all of them. Let's go check out the design. And there you can see that You can see all of them in the horizontal fashion. Now, one thing you would observe is that they're not really equally divided. That's because this one is taking as much space as it needs, and this much is taking as much space as it needs, and there's not enough space left for the last one. So it's like this in two lines. Now in linear layout, there's a property called weight, and weight basically defines the importance of an element within the linear layout. So you can give weight to different elements within linear layout. So let's say we come here to the first one, we say layout weight is equal to 1. And when we are defining the weight, because this is horizontal, so we usually define the width to be 0 dp, because we don't want to take the width into account now. We want to take the importance of this element within the linear layout. So let's change all of these to 0 dp and give them some weights. Change this to 0 dp and give them a weight of 1. So I've changed the width of all of them to 0 dp, and I've given weight 1 to all of them. And because these weight values are the same, it means that they have an equal importance. So they will have equal share of screen space. So if you go back, you will see that now they are equally divided. So this is how you define the space, define the importance of your views within the layout, within the linear layout. Now let's say you want to say that, hey, I want to give this more importance. This is a more important view for me. So you can increase its importance. You can say that this has weight 2 and these have weight 1 and 1. So this is twice as important. Now if you go look at the design, you will see that this has taken actually half the space, and then the rest of the half is divided between these two. And the same thing can be done in a vertical fashion as well. So let's say if I change the orientation to vertical, and then it will give an error because we have defined the width to be 0, but the orientation is vertical. And so it says that it is a suspicious size, like this will make the view invisible. So let's put this back to match parent. And in this case, we change the height to be 0 dp. Let's do that for all of these. Change this to 0 dp. Now we go check out the design, and you can see that now they are vertically divided, and I gave weight of 2 to this one. That's why it has taken more space than these ones. So if we give them equal weightage, then they will be equally divided. So yeah, that's how you work with the linear layout. It arranges the elements in a linear fashion, either vertically or horizontally, and then you can give certain weights to the elements. If you don't give the weights, they will be arranged according to their width and height properties, but weight is usually helpful when you, let's say, want to divide the layout in this way, where you want to give equal space to all of the elements. Now I want to design a particular layout with you that I will show you here. So something like this. This is like an email view where you send the name, where you type the name of the user, the subject, the message, and then you press the send button. Now here you will see, let's try to figure out how we can design this. You can see that all the elements are arranged in a vertical fashion, so we should use linear layout. This is match parent, its height is wrap content, so it's taking as much height as it needs, and its width is match parent. So in this case it's match parent as well, in this case it's match parent as well. But you can see that they are not equally divided, and this is something that we can achieve by using the weight property as well. So let's start with this. So let's start with just one. I will remove these, and width match parent, let's give it a height of wrap content, and let's remove the weight for now. And for the text, I will say 2. Actually, one other property is that this is not actually a text, because if you start typing, that thing disappears. So this is like a hint, and edit text has a property called hint. So let's set hint to 2. And now if we go check out the design, we can see that we have an edit text over here that says 2. Now let's add another one, the second one, the subject line. Let's change this to subject. Let's go check out the design, and you can see now that we have these two. What else do we need? So we need a message edit text now. So let's go back. Let's copy this again. And here we can say message. And if you go check out the design, you will see that this is not taking a whole lot of space than these ones. That's because we have defined the height of this to be wrap content as well. So in order to make these take as much height as they want and give the rest of the height to this one, we need to set the weight on this one. So we will define this to be 0 dp and weight to be 1. And if we go check it out now, you can see that this has taken the whole screen. And this is also one of the property of the layout. So here you will see that unlike before, I haven't set the weights on these edit text. I've only set the weight on this one and defined the height of this one to be 0, and the rest are wrap content. So in this case, when we have just one layout, one view with the weight 1, that only that view will take the screen, the whole screen. So it's the screen, these two will take as much height as they want, and the rest of the screen will be given to this edit text. As you can see, it's happening there. And then the last element was a button. So let's type a button. Its width should be wrap content, because it was not taking the whole width of the screen, as you can see here. Then its height should be wrap content as well. And text, what did the text say? Send. Yeah, so if you if you type text and the suggestion doesn't appear, you should press Alt space for the suggestion to appear. So Android text and send. And then we close the tag. And let's check out the design now. So you can see that these are arranged as we want them to be, but this is not on the right end. That's because by default, all of these layouts start from the left, or all of these layouts start from the side of your locale, which in this case is English, and English starts from the left, so it's on the left. So here comes another important property that we can define in the linear layout, and that's called the gravity. So if I set the gravity of this to be on the right, then you can see that it appears here. So this gravity is a pretty handy tag as well. So you can use layout gravity to send the, and you must have noticed that there are two different properties. There's Android gravity, this one, and layout gravity. Layout gravity basically sets the gravity of this button in the layout, and this gravity that doesn't have the layout before it sets the gravity of the elements within the button. So if you go check this out, you will see that the send is here on the right side. That's because we have set the gravity to be on the right. If we remove this, by default for the buttons, the gravity is in the center. So you will see that the text is in the center. So we are almost kind of there. If we look at the design, it kind of looks the same, but you can see that like we don't have any margins around it. In this case, we have some nice margin around it, but here in the layout, it seems that it's like attached. It's very close to the boundary. So let's give it some margins. And there are two different properties when you want to put some margins. One is the margin itself, and then there's padding as well. So, and I can explain the difference between the two. So if we have, let's say, margin, and here we can say, let's say 16 dp, because 16 dp is a pretty standard margin for the root layouts. Let's go check it out. And now you can see that we have a margin, and it's not very close to the edges of the screen. And you will see that there is this blue boundary around it. That's because this is our main layout now. This is our main linear layout. And you can see it's selected on the pane here as well. So if you select these elements, they will be selected here. And if you select this, you will see that the boundary is around it. That's because we have set the layout margin to be 16 dp. And the layout margin is always applied outside the layout on which you're applying it. So layout margin basically says that this layout has a margin of 16 dp from anything outside of it. But this is not really what we want in our main layout. And so I will change this to a property called padding. Now here you will see that there are certain properties like padding start, padding bottom. I'm defining just padding, which means that the padding will be applied all around it, on the top, on the bottom, on the start, on the end, on all four sides. So if we apply padding here, go back, check our design, and now you will see that the blue border is around the screen. So padding basically is the margin within it. So it says that everything within this linear layout, in this case, will have a margin of 16 dp around it. So on the edges, there is a margin of 16 dp, and everything will be contained within it. So yeah, so margin, in short, margin here defines the space between this element and anything outside of it, whereas padding is an internal margin. So that was it. This is our design. This is how it looks. We have designed an email screen, and you can see how useful linear layout can be in this kind of situation. So that was it for this lecture. In the next lecture, I will explain another very important layout called relative layout. Thanks for watching. And if you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.